Welcome to Talk with Tara, the podcast where we dive into the bold, the funny, and the fascinating. I'm Tara, your host, bringing you unfiltered conversations on life, love, and everything in between. Hit that follow button so you're always in the loop. And now let's get started. Welcome back to Talk with Tara, the podcast where we dive into the bold conversations on midlife. And today I am so excited. We're talking about something that is very important to me, money, and how to make it, how to keep it, and how to deal with it after you've gone through a big transition, whether that's divorce or breaking up in a long-term partnership with Katy Song. Katy is a seasoned financial expert with over 17 years of experience empowering singles, couples, and families to take control of their financial futures. As a CEO of Katy Song Financial Planning, Katy has built a reputation for helping people cut through the stress, simplifying the numbers, and create a money plan that truly supports the life they want to live. She's also a lot of fun, so I really enjoy talking to her. And she blends, Wall Street expertise and compassion coaching, having led financial planning at Domain Money. She's also consulted for SoFi and served in leadership roles at Citi's corporate investment banking division. She has a BA in global economics and an MBA from UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business, and she knows the technical side of finance, but her true passion is making money approachable, judgment-free, and empowering for all of us. And I am just so excited to have you today, Katy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, well, financial wellness in any time, any part of your life is very important, but it's especially important in midlife. Some of us have made mistakes along the way. And if you're in midlife, can you fix those mistakes? Is it too late for us?
It's never too late.
Good.
I mean, the key is to try to reframe. So like a lot of people come into midlife and like you were mentioning in the beginning, if there's a period of transition. So like, let's say that you were married for a long period of time. Maybe you were not even working for that, like a period of that time. And so you're entering this with like fear. Like so many women have fear when it comes to money, which it's kind of societal. Like our society has not given women confidence to have the conversation about money. We've tended to think that money has been taken care of by somebody else, be it an investment advisor, your husband, your dad. We haven't really taken charge of this. But I mean, as you read in the papers and hear on every podcast about this big transition of wealth that's going to happen when the baby boomers, expire, and this wealth transition to the majority of the women, that they're going to be women who inherit this money. This is the perfect time to educate yourself. And like you said earlier, my focus is really on how do I educate my clients and make it shame-free? And even if you come in with tons of baggage, like the worst childhood, the worst family memories of money,
the
and
worst
feel like you've
spending problems.
Yeah, you feel like you've made the dumbest mistakes possible. Those are learning opportunities. So like wherever there's damage, there's room for repair. So like that's my job, is to help you figure out like how do we do that repairing?
Yeah, because I have worked with a number of women in the space, and I hear that when women, well, first of all, women stay married, because I have a friend, for example, who came to me once and that said that she really wanted to get a divorce, and she went to her attorney. And the attorney said, don't do it. You're not in a financial, you won't be able to live the standard of living that you're used to. So just stay married. And a lot of women hear this. And I remember talking to my attorney when I was going through my divorce. And I said, this is so unfair. I'm just getting hardly any alimony, and I'm getting penalized because I've worked so hard all these years. So I get penalized because I brought so much to the table. And he said, you know what, Tara, be grateful that you're not handcuffed by a marriage and that you have financial freedom. So I feel a lot of compassion for women who are in the position where they just want to stay married because they're scared of the financial repercussions of separating. And a lot of women come out of marriage, and men, not in good financial shape. So what are some strategies when I come to you and I'm like, I feel like I'm in ground zero, Katy, what do I do?
So there's actually a really good new book. I'll talk about my strategies, but I think this book is worth a read. So it's called Sudden Money. I'm just going to grab it really quickly to tell you who the authors are. They're written by certified financial planners. It's by Susan Bradley and Mary Martin. So they've been doing financial planning about as long as I have. And what they really wanted to look at is like the sudden money being like win the lottery, get a divorce, somebody passes away and their life insurance proceeds, you receive an inheritance, the trends are all the same, which is people make mistakes because they don't follow kind of their framework that they set out. So the framework, the first step, and it's kind of financial planning 101, which the first step is plan, the second is implement, and the third is monitor. The planning phase is the most important. So what they've seen trend-wise is that the majority of bad decisions happen when people don't do the planning phase. So there's the planning phase, the implementing phase, and the monitoring phase. So in the planning phase, which could take a year, we're trying to gather information in here, there's this period of time that they call the decision-free zone. So in that time, we're really just gathering information. And that's important. Like if you get, let's say you have a separation agreement and as part of the divorce, you're getting a lump sum of $600,000. I had a call from a woman a week ago and she was referred from an asset manager who was like, okay, you don't make enough money for me to work with you. And she was getting $600,000. She made $100,000 a year, but she had two 20-year-old daughters who still lived with her. And she wanted to buy a house in Marin and she wanted to live off that 600 grand for the rest of her life. And I was like, the math doesn't math.
No.
So, definitely taking the time to plan and think realistically is a huge first step. Kind of getting back to what you said previously, which is what do you do if you're starting at zero? It's a really hard place to be. Divorce penalizes everybody. Mm-hmm. It really does. Nobody walks away feeling better than they did before.
Right.
It's just hard, but you make these tough decisions because your mental health or your happiness or your capacity for love is worth it. So getting clarity is really the most important first step.
Okay. So getting clarity of your financial landscape, basically what your house looks like.
Yeah. So the first step would be kind of constructing a balance sheet. So what are all your liquid assets? Do you have any taxable brokerage accounts? What are you coming away with from retirement? I would say one of the biggest things for a lot of my clients that come to me that are either divorced or getting divorced is the house, right?
Yeah.
So where we live, it's one of the biggest assets in a lot of metropolitan areas. It's your biggest asset on your balance sheet. So one of the questions that people come to me is well, I really want to stay in the house. Mm-hmm. How can I buy my ex out of the house? Does it make sense for me to do it? Sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't because it's a really expensive proposition to have to maintain that house on whatever your income is.
Yeah. In Marin, where we live in California, your real estate asset can go up 5% a year. And then, of course, or maybe more. But your money being invested can go up more than that, right? Can go up 8 to 12%.
Yeah. Real estate tends to appreciate nationally around 5%. In Marin, especially Southern Marin, it's closer to 7.9. If we're looking at a really long-term average. And then you look at the S&P, which is 10.8.
Right. Right.
If you have a ton of equity in your house, people feel house poor and they can't live their life.
I hate to generalize, but women tend to be big spenders. They buy they're the big consumers. A lot of advertising is geared toward, taking marketing and advertising classes, and they're all geared toward mostly women because I think it's the hunter-gatherer. I think it's in our DNA to gather things, make our house look nice, make our be attractive and wear cute clothes for our friends. Do you find that being an issue? How do women curb that? And, even going out with your friends, you're spending money. I always think oh, I could put this money and buy a share of NVIDIA. I went out to dinner with my friends. I could have bought, 2 shares of NVIDIA tonight. How do women curb their desire to spend? Do you give advice on that?
Yeah. I think the first thing is getting back to the NVIDIA stock, which would be, do I already have that stuff taken care of? How much money can I spend? So I do a lot of budgeting with clients, which is here's how much you can afford to spend. You've been spending, I'm going to make up some numbers. You've been spending $15,000 a month and you can afford 11. So let's look at your biggest costs. Can we do anything there? Refinancing, you can't really do anything about property taxes. Do you need the car payment that you have? Can we reduce your insurance? Are you still paying for childcare? Are your kids in private school? There's so many things. And then the discretionary, the big 3 are shopping, food, and travel. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is when it's okay to complain and come into this and say oh, I'm used to being able to take this type of vacation. I'm used to being able to go to Lululemon and Nordstrom for their anniversary sale and buy what I want to buy. but usually there are compromises that have to be made. So the key is really kind of, again, reframing that into like, this is what you're choosing to do. You're choosing that this is going to be your spending limit.
Right. Okay. So budgeting is important. Any budgeting software tips that you can
I
recommend?
am a huge fan of Monarch Money. So for my clients, I pay for the subscription. So my clients get it for free, and it enables me to see like what's going on in their lives, and I can teach them how to use it. It is a lot of information, but my favorite part, if somebody's interested in Monarch, is when you do create an account, you link your bank and your credit cards, it gives you visibility into everything. But I like to go to the report section and click on spending. And it shows you this really handy pie chart. Like, clients that have done a plan with me, I'm going to tell them your target spending is $11,000. So when we go to reports and spending, we'll see, okay, so for the month of August, did it say 11,000? And if it doesn't say 11,000, but it says 14, we just need to understand why. Right. So on average, over a longer period of time, we want to trend towards that 11,000. But there are going to be some months where you're like, I took my kid to college, so I bought plane tickets and we had to get the dorm room stuff. Spending's different every month.
Right. Okay. So Monarch, is it really hard to get everything up and running? It's time consuming to start it off?
It's not really, because they've made it pretty easy.
Okay.
And I think technology is advanced. Like for the listeners out there who maybe a decade ago tried mint.com, it's way better. So like technology has improved, and interfaces in between these aggregators and the app, or the app and the banks has just gotten so much better.
Yeah, I've heard you're like the fourth person who has told me about Monarch. So good tip. Good tip.
Yeah.
There.
And then for my clients, they love it because they don't have to pay for it.
That's
I
great.
get it
That's so great. So what about so if you have $100, how much should go toward your living? I'm just going to use $100, or let's use $1,000. How much should go toward your living expenses? How much should go toward your fund spending? How much should go towards investing? Do you have a idea?
So, there's that kind of like old school, the 50, 30, 20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that depending on your housing is going to be your business for 99% of people. Housing is your biggest expense. Depending on when you bought your house and have your mortgage, it could be at 2.75% or 6.75%.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really use those kind of like the percentages, because they don't pertain to everybody. And then people start feeling guilty and like they're ashamed because they didn't do it right. So for me, it really comes down to, what are your values? Like, what do you want to spend money on? Is like looking good and dressing in Lululemon your thing? Or would you rather like take a weekend trip to Mexico? Right. So we want to be able to like afford the fixed expenses, but also budget for the things that really feed you and fuel you.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. I like that. So you're not depriving yourself. It's like dieting, you just don't go all or nothing.
That's true. I mean, I think that there are some rules of thumb though. So like, I always find that people find this helpful. So like a family of 4 should be spending less than $3,000 on food per month. And I'm talking about groceries and restaurants. Mm-hmm. So look at your numbers. And if you're at like 5,500, there's an issue there. Like you're ordering DoorDash 5 nights a week, and your teenage kids are doing exactly what they want to do, and you guys are doing what you want to do, and you're going out and you're buying wine. That's just a lot. Like if you make $1 million, that's fine. But if you're trying to save and trying to budget on not $1 million a year, you have to watch, like, again, those big 3. So food, shopping, and travel. Shopping is a big one. I see a family of 4 in general should be spending like $6 to $9 grand on clothes. Okay. That's still a really big number. I have people that come to me and they're spending 30.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what did you buy?
Yeah.
And it tends to be more like a habit thing, like volume. They go to Free People every other day and see what's new. They go to Anthropology. So that's definitely an area where, like, if you start paying attention, you're like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I don't need to be buying all this.
Right. What do you tell people that have, shopping habits? Random question, but there's people who are addicted to shopping. Like, how do you curb that? Do you ever, that's a tough job, because you're in this business and you meet people who have habits that need to be broken.
Yeah. I have a client that I'm thinking of right now. And so we gave her a budget and we're like, okay, this she agreed. She's like, it's too much. I don't need any more. I understand it. And we're like, okay, this is your budget, but you have to look at something like Monarch, like every week or every 2 weeks in the beginning, to see Am I on track?
Okay.
Am I spending what I should be spending? If you're not looking, you're not going to know and you're going to fail.
It's like I
So
look at my Fitbit every day to make sure I've done my
your steps, right?
over my steps. It totally keeps me accountable. So I think having a budget like this through Monarch can keep you accountable.
And you have to know what your number is. So we try to keep it simple. So if clothes shopping is the issue, that's our whole focus. We're only focusing on clothes. So if the thing is you're going from spending $3,000 a month down to spending $500 a month, that's not realistic in all honesty from a behavior perspective. But we can start making progress. So like with that client, when we were looking on a weekly basis, I email her, and I'm just like, hey, I saw that you spent blah, blah, blah. You're kind of done for the month. And she was like, but it's only the 7th. And I'm like, well, you already spent it. So now you can't spend anymore. So then she has to make a conscious choice whether to not pay attention to the target or to pay attention to it.
When it comes to 401k, people who are going to high net worth individuals, is it better for them to do a Roth or a traditional 401k? So they're going to make a lot of money when they retire, let's say. They have annuities and they have big investments and they're going to live off of that. And then they have their 401k. So is it better to put it in a Roth?
Well, so it all comes down to that tax, the opportunity cost of that tax rate. So if a client is high net worth, they're normally high net worth because they're making high income. Mm-hmm. So it would be a little bit unique to have somebody who doesn't make a whole lot of income and has a low tax bracket, but has high net worth.
Okay.
I mean, maybe an example would be somebody who sold their company and they have a bunch of money that they've invested, but now they're doing something fun and nonprofity and not making a lot. In that instance, their tax rate is going to be lower today than it will be when they retire. So it makes perfect sense then for them to prioritize Roth.
Okay, that's a good example.
So the happiest retirees have a combination of pre-tax, Roth, and taxable brokerage accounts. Like those are the happiest baby boomers out there.
That's a really good tip. Okay, a little bit of both.
And we want, if you can get your Roth up to like 30% of that pie of like all your resources, that is astounding.
Okay, that's a really good tip, 30%. I'm going to write that down.
Okay.
Okay, what about, you hear a lot on these podcasts and Instagram and about scarcity mindset and having issues with money. You meet a lot of cheap men, for example. Where does that come from and what are your thoughts on that? Like,
well, I think a lot of
to be cheap.
I think a lot of that is like the money story that people come in with. Mm-hmm. So like I've heard so many stories of, my parents had a lot of money and then they didn't have any. Yep. So I'm going to squirrel everything away. An example would be like people who front load their 401ks to the beginning of the year because they're afraid they're going to get laid off and they're not going to be able to contribute.
Right.
So that's like this fear base. So
yes,
just like in general, I practice like a feeling of abundance and I try to like emote that to my clients for sure. But we always have to address like, what is the root of the fear and how do we get to a feeling of financial security? And I wrote a book called Financially Fearless, and it's a guide for tech moms. Like that's who originally it was written from. But in my book, I talk about what I call the bookend goals. So in order to have a higher degree of financial security, you have to have those 2 bookend goals met. So the first one would be like, you need to have some kind of short-term liquidity, emergency fund, rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it. It can't be sitting at B of A or Wells Fargo or Chase because that earns no interest. It needs to be in a high yield savings account. So like at a minimum, normally financial planners say, okay, 3 months of your spending, 6 months of your spending. In general, if you have 25 to 45 grand in cash, that's great. That makes me really happy. But again, make sure it's earning like right now, at least 3.5%. Rates are changing all the time. So that's important. So that's like the short-term liquidity. The long-term liquidity is financial independence. So that retirement number. So you need to know, am I even remotely on track? And as we talked about earlier, there's this big wealth transfer. So we'll take that into consideration. So if and I'm just throwing these numbers out there, but if you're going to inherit $2.5 million when your parents pass away, maybe we don't need to be sacrificing the girls' trip to Vegas in order to sock more money away in your backdoor Roth IRA.
Right. Okay.
So doing the plan helps you get out of that scarcity, fearful mindset because the fear is really based on the unknown. So we want to uncover what the known is.
Yeah. A lot of people have a fear-based mindset when it comes to money. I have friends that are very spiritual and they say, well, money is energy. It's like if you hold on to it, you don't get more. It's like you need to kind of release some of it to have it come back to you and kind of have this, feeling of just
Flow.
liquidity,
It has to
flow.
flow.
Yes, flow. That was the word that I was
Yeah.
looking
So
for.
all these accounts, be it like a taxable brokerage account, a Roth IRA, we can get into the nitty gritty of like who needs what and how much you put in it and what kind of investment. To me, that's the easy stuff. They're just the vessels. You have to get comfortable with this is the life that I want to lead. Kind of paint the picture of what does the top of the puzzle box look like? And then putting the pieces together, we can do that, right? But you have to be the visionary.
Yeah. What is the kind of you probably get asked this question all the time and you probably are going to not have an answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. What is a solid retirement number in California?
It depends on depends on your age. So like your I'm done number for sure is 5 million.
Yeah.
Like that means you're walking away from your job no matter what your age is. Like 5 million. And it's funny because people will say to me like, no, my number's 15. And I'll show them the math. I'm like, no. In today's dollars, it's 5. For most of my clients who are going to continue working, by the time you hit 50, I would love for you to each have like, if there are 2 people in a relationship or one person, I'd like you to have $1 million already.
Mm-hmm. At 50?
At 50.
That seems doable. If you have, a good job and you're able to save and have your money grow. I made the mistake in my early years when I was working for a tech company during the .com time. I did not invest my money because I saw so many people losing their money. So I just had it in some kind of like CD because I was like, I'm not going to invest it in the stock market and lose my money. And I think that was that's a big mistake. And I think a number of people got scared during that time to reinvest after the .com era.
Well, so we have that. We have 2008.
2008.
We have elections happening like November 2021. We have April 7th of this year. There are all these things. From a behavioral psychology standpoint, the risk of loss is much more poignant than the happiness you get from a gain in your investments. Yeah. So people react irrationally and emotionally. I would say that this year there's been a huge trend of people coming to me with all cash in their retirement accounts. Yeah. And they did it because they thought they were being smart because Trump got elected.
Right.
And my recommendation to everybody is never do that.
Okay.
Because you're never, ever going to time the market right.
Right.
So those people who took it out, put it in cash, they still haven't reinvested. So they've missed a 12 to 18% rebound in the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we can't look backwards. We always have to look forward. But that's where, not making emotional decisions and sticking to your plan is really important.
What about Bitcoin and all the talk on crypto? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that should be kind of like your gambling money, or do you think you should really invest in crypto?
I mean, so my clients that are really into crypto are like my millennial clients. Yeah. Like there are some that they're 100% in, but the thing is they bought so long ago and they've made a ton of money. It's great. Yeah. I have to say most of my clients that have invested in like a well-diversified ETF, they're kind of breaking even, because there's supposedly cycles. And I think that you have to follow it if you want to be in it. As a rule of thumb, I wouldn't recommend crypto being more than 5% of anybody's portfolio just because it's considered a different asset class.
Right. Okay.
I mean, the big now is, AI. Like, how should I invest in AI? Do I go all in an AI? Before this, it was cloud computing, you name it.
Yeah, well, look at Oracle anyway. Do you help women like when they're going through mediation? Do you coach them? Could they hire someone like yourself to help them through the mediation process and negotiate what they want to get out of the marriage?
So doing the planning. So normally when people come to me who are separated or getting divorced, everything's been commingled, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been living this life as a couple with children or without children. So the first step is for us to figure out like, okay, what does your life cost? What do you need? Because you can't walk away from that table. Well, the thing is you can. If you walk away from the table not meeting your needs, it just adds stress to you. It just means, okay, you need to go get a job that pays this much more. You need to work longer. You need to kind of downsize your house maybe. So we definitely want to go in from a negotiation standpoint. We want to anchor it, right? We want to go in with like, okay, our ask is this, knowing that we probably are going to have to negotiate down. But if you don't go in with that and with that knowledge, most likely you're not going to walk away with enough money.
Why do women, I know a lot of women who just give up. They don't
It's
want to.
exhausting. Exhausting to try to feel like, I mean, come on, we're women, like we're figuring everything out all the time. It is exhausting being an adult and being a woman in this world, constantly trying to look good, like trying to be smart, trying to read up on everything, trying to listen to everything. What is the next thing that we're supposed to do to like make sure that when we're 85, we can tie our shoes? It is endless and exhausting. So when it comes to something like this, people give up because they're just tired.
Yeah, but my recommendation, ladies, is don't give up. You've worked so hard, and anyone who says that raising kids, if you've been a stay-at-home mom, isn't a job, has not done it. Let me tell you, it is a job. You're a chauffeur, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're going to the emergency room, the doctors, the sports. I mean, it is 24/7. Well, maybe you sleep
And
for
it
every 6
doesn't
hours.
stop.
It doesn't
And
stop.
it doesn't stop.
So that man, I've had so many friends where they're like, I just don't want to fight. If that man is just trying to like push you against the wall and squeeze everything he can out of you, you squeeze back. And that's my recommendation. And that's why I was wondering if, hiring someone like you to be in their corner to say like, this is what your budget is. This is what you should be working toward. This is what I recommend when it comes to the house. Like, should you keep it? Should you rent it? Should you sell it? Let's say you're amicable with your ex and you want to rent your house for 2 years together. And you say, hey, let's look at this as an investment opportunity. Let's not be silly and throw our money away. So let's rent our house. And let's say you have a lot of equity in it and you have a low mortgage and you rent your house and you split whatever the proceeds are that are extra. The rest, you cover your expenses, and then you can deduct your expenses, like your property tax, the gardener, or whatever. The water heater breaks, you can deduct that. You can depreciate it. And then you sell it in 2 years, and you can buy maybe together an investment property, or maybe he buys an investment property and you buy an investment property. I mean, that's kind of a good idea, isn't it?
It is an interesting idea. I've never seen that happen.
Oh, really? Oh,
Never.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, more often I want to stay in the house until the kids finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I need you to stay on the mortgage because I can't refinance because interest rates are terrible right now and I don't have enough income. So there's a lot of like, okay, what is the agreement for selling when the kids reach 18 and they go to college, and then we sell the house and we split it. So the one nice thing about it being a primary residence is you get the exemption. So you get the $500,000 capital gains exemption. And that usually helps avoid any taxes. But getting back to what you asked earlier about the mediation, like I love to do a plan for somebody before they enter the discussion. Mm-hmm. There are divorce specialists, certified financial planners. And this is like all they do.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. That's interesting. I didn't have to fortunately, I have an amicable situation and I didn't have to do that, but I have a lot of friends that have not. And I feel like they need... Yeah, and they need someone in their corner to just say, don't give up. You deserve what you deserve. And I know a lot of women, they just give up.
Well, and the mediator too is a mediator. They're not the money person. So you have to be your own advocate. I think the biggest thing too for women is when you're feeling drained, you have to find a way to recharge. And this isn't like, you don't even have to go through divorce for this. This is just living.
Right.
So I get asked questions sometimes about like, okay, what can I splurge on? Mm-hmm. And in my view, like something that you can splurge on is something that gives you either time or helps your health. Like those are worth splurges because that's going to be the gift that keeps on giving.
Right. What about your children's financial wellness? Do you teach your children financial literacy, and how do you work with kids?
I mean,
your own kids?
I talk about money all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have no shame about saying like, my daughter got $160,000 scholarship to her school. Like people don't want to talk about that stuff. So and cool. I'm proud. I'm like, okay, it makes she goes to Chapman University, which is private and expensive. It makes it the cost of a UC school. So I'm super happy about that. So I talk about money openly. I think you have to role model. So if you're stressed about money and you've got, getting back to like what you said earlier about like the frugal, like, no, we can't spend money on that. And like, why are men so miserly and women are the bigger spenders? You have to model like confidence. And even if you don't have the confidence, then say like, I'm trying to learn. But if you're fearful and you have a scarcity mindset, your kids are going to have the same.
Yeah, I do think I have a scarcity mindset, and I do think my kids have inherited that. And I remember early on, my daughter was with this lady in San Diego, like a mom took her to San Diego, and we happened to be there too with my son. And the mom lectured me and said, your daughter didn't want to spend money on whatever it was, some kind of souvenir, because she said my mom would think it's too expensive. And you really need to work on that with your children. And I thought, no, I think it's good that she knows the value of money. And I think that my kids, my daughter just texted me today and she, put some of her money in the S&P. So, and she's 19 years old. So I think teaching your kids financial literacy, maybe in my situation, it's not good because have the scarcity mindset, but at the same time, it's better than I think having an overspending mindset.
100%. Like a kid who is, I'm saying this out of experience because my son is 14 and last year he didn't feel well and he door dashed a shot of ginger cayenne lemon. And I was like, no, my child.
Yes.
That is not okay.
Right.
You are not, you can walk your butt down to Whole Foods if you want to get that, but that is absolutely ridiculous. That will not happen again. Yeah. So, and meanwhile, he also had Christmas money and he's like, put this in my Schwab account and let's buy, my favorite is like the NASDAQ index, which is QQQ. So I'm like, let's go growth. So, I think they learn by making mistakes, which is great, but like clients that come to me that are overspending and then like I see how much money they're spending on clothes and half of it is Urban Outfitter and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, your kid needs to know that buying a pair of $250 jeans for a 14-year-old is out of control.
Right. I totally agree. And my daughter would say, oh, they have the Golden Goose shoes. I'm like, well, you don't. So sorry.
And they look dirty already.
Yeah,
why are you
exactly.
buying dirty shoes?
Exactly. Okay. Speaking of QQQ, can you talk about, tell our listeners what are ETFs and are they a good way to invest money if they don't want to do individual stocks, so equities or stocks?
Yeah. So a stock is an individual share in a company. I am 100% not a fan because I'm all about diversity. So okay. I don't want to have any business specific risk. And when you own a share of NVIDIA directly, you have to pay attention, right? So if instead you buy a basket or like the market, QQQ is a great example of the NASDAQ index. So that's all high growth. VV, like every, financial services company has their own version of this. That's the S&P. So think about the S&P index. It's about 570 companies actually, and about 80% of them are what we consider large cap. So like your Googles, your Amazons, your Metas, your Exxon Mobils. And then we've got about 20% of those are like mid-cap companies, like more like regional utilities, maybe, like smaller companies. So what the S&P is lacking is there's no international and there's no small cap. So in my mind, if you're going to have an equity portfolio, this is what I would go for. I'd put at least 10% into QQQ. I would put about 10% into a small cap index. So some examples would be like VB at Vanguard or IJR, Fidelity E-Trade. They like the iShares funds. Those are two examples. And then the rest of it, I would put in the S&P. You can replace if you do something like VTI, V as in Victor, T as in Tom, I as in Indigo, that is a total stock market index. So then you just have like some large cap growth. You'd have the total stock market index, and then we'd add an international component. So my rule of thumb is I want international to always be like 25 to 30% of your total asset allocation. If you look at your stock.
Why is that? Why international?
There's tax diversification, there's growth diversification, there's geopolitical diversification when it comes to that. They're different companies. One could argue that most multinational companies derive a huge amount of their sales from overseas. So therefore, most of our S&P is kind of international. So I get that. A lot of portfolio managers about 2 years ago started shifting heavily into international, like 30 to 40%, like BlackRock, Goldman Sachs. That year, the S&P outperformed the international index. However, this year, the international index is up about 20%.
Oh, okay.
So we want to have like overall some diversification from that standpoint so that we're not putting all of our eggs in the U.S. basket.
And you're saying that you can get these international ETFs like through Vanguard, Fidelity.
Yeah.
They have them and they say something like an international mix. Like you could find them on when you go on their website.
Yes. So an example would be V as in Victor, X as in X-ray, US. So VXUS. or IEFA, or at Schwab, SCHF, as in Frank. And these are all low cost, really well diversified ETFs. So getting back to like, what's an ETF? It's a basket of companies. So you're getting instant diversification. There's something called an expense ratio. Like you have to pay a little bit to like have that share. ETFs trade throughout the day. So if it's like 10 o'clock in the morning and you want to buy some SPY, you make the trade and poof, it's in your account. If you buy a mutual funds are 5 letters and they end in an X. They only trade at the end of the day. So if you place an order, it places at the end of the day. In general, ETFs, which are just like index funds, mutual funds, but they trade throughout the day, they're considered more tax efficient. So not only are they more fun because you can trade them right away, but in your brokerage account, like not your retirement account, we want mostly ETFs. We don't want the mutual funds.
You don't want the what fund? Sorry.
We don't want the mutual funds, the ones that end in an X, like the 5 letters that end in an X, because in general, they're less tax efficient. So in a taxable brokerage account, every year you get a 1099.
Right.
So there is, even if you reinvest your dividends and capital gains, you're going to owe some taxes on that. So we don't want it to be a big number. We want it to stay small. So therefore, like have ETFs in the brokerage account.
You can reinvest your dividends. Can you repeat that?
There's a button when you make a trade that says, would you like to reinvest your dividends and capital gains? So what it does is whenever the end of the quarter, when the underlying companies in the ETF are paying their dividends, they flow back through to you. So instead of you getting little bits of cash, they buy fractional shares of that same ETF. So that's like what really helps with the power of compounding, is that you're reinvesting the dividends and capital gains instead of taking it for yourself.
Oh, that's what I do. I reinvest my dividends. So you're just saying when you select the reinvest your dividends, it helps with their capital gains because you're buying the stock again?
Well, it helps a little bit with that because your tax basis keeps, like if the ETF keeps appreciating, that means that you're buying shares at higher prices, so your dollar cost averaging too is kind of going up.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad I do that. Okay.
Yeah. And so like, if you find that even in your retirement accounts or your brokerage accounts that like cash starts accumulating, that means in one of your investments, you haven't checked the box to say to reinvest your dividends and capital gains.
Okay.
If you're retired and you're like, I need some money to live my life, then we want to uncheck the boxes and we want to kind of sweep it to your checking account.
Okay. Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. We asked about the retirement. That was the one I had it written down, a question for myself to ask you. We talked about that ideal number. Oh, that was my question. I wrote 5 to 15. My question to you is, you said to the person who has the goal of 15, you don't need 15, you need the 5. What did you mean by that?
I think that, again, it gets back to the fear, is that if people think like, oh, I need 15 million, I've got to work until I get to that amount, and 5 is actually enough. Do I believe my financial planner in telling me that I can live my lifestyle and 5 is enough? Or am I delusional and I keep pushing myself and it's never going to be enough? Okay. So like knowing what your enough is.
Okay.
And like in general, my view about wealth is my definition of wealth for me is having complete control over my time.
Okay.
And so you have to define like, what does that mean to you? Like, what does being wealthy mean? Does it mean having 15 million? Like if that's his number, then you need to sell your company for 30 million.
Right.
Which in the Bay Area, people do that.
Right.
It's just us normal people. That's not really on our horizon.
Yeah. And I did listen to some hedge fund guy the other day, and he was saying that, you need to live your life for today, because when you're 65 or 70, you may not be able to walk around Paris on your vacation and go all over the place. And you may be able to only walk a mile. So, live your life today, because we work so hard for this retirement number, to put more and more away. And then we give up on little moments in life.
Well, and we're Gen Xers, right? So like there's definitely a bigger trend with like millennials and zillennials of these micro retirements where they're not feeling like, okay, I've been at Cisco for 15 years. I got to make it another 7 so that I can retire. They're thinking, okay, I've been at this gig for 18 months. I've had a good ride. I'm going to go take 6 months or a year off and like go to Vietnam and like teach English or learn yoga or learn how to surf or do whatever they want to do. And then we'll come back and find another job. So there's definitely a lot of generational differences that as a financial planner, I have learned, and I just have to make sure that I'm not trying to apply like our Gen X stuff to like the other generations.
Right, right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. What is good debt and what is bad debt?
So bad debt is anything that's not helping you build your net worth. So things like overspending. So I'm a big fan of the 0% stuff. Okay. So don't get me wrong, as long as you can afford it. So if you're going to buy a $10,000 mattress and buy it on Affirm and pay it off during the promotional period, absolutely fine. But I want to make sure that you can actually afford that $10,000 mattress and that you're not just spending it because you can. In general, credit card debt if you're carrying a balance, there's zero reason to carry a balance. So many people have come to me over the last 20 years and said, well, I keep a balance for my credit. No, that's not how credit works. You want to pay those off every single month. Mm-hmm. We don't want interest charges. We don't want finance charges. That's a complete and utter waste of money. Okay. So that would be bad. I am, though, for anybody that owns a home, I want all of my clients, if they have gained some equity in their house, I want everybody to have a home equity line of credit.
Okay. Why?
It doesn't cost you anything to have it. It's essentially like if you need it and things really go sour, if you lost your job, you're not going to qualify to get one.
Okay.
So we want you to, while you're gainfully employed and you don't need the money, we want you to put it in place. So in general, they're variable rate loans. So the rates kind of stink. They're like 7.5%, 8% right now. Again, if you don't borrow against it, you're not paying anything. There's usually a 10-year draw period, and the first 10 years are interest only. So let's say that you really wanted to do a renovation in your bathroom and you've got a bonus coming up in April and you want to do the bathroom now. I would be supportive if you can afford the interest payment. Go ahead and do the bathroom, get the utility out of it, and then use your bonus to pay that line down.
I like that idea if you are renting your house to have a home equity loan. And if you have to do any renovations, you can deduct that expense too, right?
So you have to be careful though. Like a lot of lenders don't want to give home equity loans on rental properties.
What if you already have a home equity loan, then decide to rent it?
Awesome. That's great.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Do you believe in staging? Like if you know how you're selling your house and the real estate agent's pushing staging down your throat, it's $30,000. What do you think of spending money on your house when you're selling it?
Well, think about you. Like if you walked into a house and it looked amazing, you would find more value in it. Mm-hmm. Like I used to live in France. So we moved to France in 2017. We lived there during the first Trump administration. When I was looking at rental properties, French people do not believe in staging. I mean, there's unmade beds and dirty clothes and underwear hanging up and bathrooms look disgusting, but they're all like that. And they're kind of gross. And you're like, I don't want to pay for that. So I think within reason, I think in general, people tend to not have vision. So if you can create what the vision of the space is and make it look more appealing, even if it's like throwing lipstick on the pig, I think that it's worth, unless it's a tear down, right?
Okay.
If it's a tear down and your realtor's like, they're just going to not bulldoze this to the ground, then it's not worth it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, because people put a lot of money in their homes I hear the stories where women will put a lot of money in their homes when they're about to sell them, and then they get really pressured, and then it doesn't pan out for them. So their house doesn't sell, or it doesn't sell for what they want it to sell. And here they've put all this investment in and it's just gone to nothing.
I have a lot of friends that are realtors. They're very good at their job. But if you think about it, it's all very transactional, right? I mean, it's relationship, but it's also transactional. And you have to listen to your gut. I mean, if there's anything that anybody takes away from this podcast, it's like, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
If something doesn't feel right, or you feel like you're being kind of used in a situation, listen to that feeling, because it's most likely got like a big kernel of truth.
I think that's a really good tip, because when you're going through midlife transition and you're vulnerable, sometimes the vultures do seem to circle you. And you have to be careful. You have to trust your gut. You have to go with people that are referred, that you know are good, that are, have empathy and compassion and have your best interest at heart. Whether that's your real estate agent, your attorney. Like I have an amazing attorney. He's like, I don't even want to work with you. Just work with a mediator. You don't need to spend money working with me. And I'm like, like, I got so lucky. Like, this guy's a gem.
That's great.
So circle yourself with recommendations. And it was recommended to me. You know, I think recommendations are really important. Like a great financial advisor, you know, that's been recommended. Can you talk about fiduciary and like non-fiduciary financial planners? And also, is it worth paying 1% or is it better to pay a consulting fee? Like because I've read that the 1% is compounded. It sounds like it's a low number, but it's really not. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I consider 1% pretty high.
Okay.
Assets under management, AUM, is like 95% of my industry, financial services, charges AUM. You can still call yourself fee only if you do AUM. So what I do is like advice only planning, flat fee. Some people call it project based, but I'm in it for a relationship. So what I do is kind of the unicorn of financial planners because I don't manage money. So I don't do the custodying. I help my clients like teach a woman to fish, eat for a lifetime.
Okay.
So all certified financial planners are fiduciaries. So what a fiduciary means is that we put the interests of our clients above our own.
Okay.
So in the past, if somebody makes money off of selling a specific investment, so if they get a commission, that is not fee only.
Okay.
They cannot be fiduciaries.
Okay. Got it.
So like if they get like, you know, a kickback or a referral fee and that kind of stuff, just so everybody knows, like anybody you work with is usually registered with FINRA or the SEC. And there's something called a Form ADV, which is like a brochure. And it tells you exactly how every firm earns their money.
Okay.
So you can go on the FINRA website,
Okay.
look up a company name, look at their brochure, and know exactly how they make their money.
Okay, that's great. All right. Well, this has been really good. So I have a couple questions to ask you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite money expert? Like, who do you idolize?
I mean, I think I really like, there's this influencer. Her name is Money with Katy, Katie. So she's young. She's like a millennial. She does so much research and her podcast is really good. Not to like plug another podcast.
No, I love another podcast.
She just wrote a book called Rich Girl Nation and I love her energy. So it's not only like that she kind of gets into a topic, dives into the whole, and she tells you everything you need to know about it. So I really enjoy her stuff when it comes to like financial influencers.
Okay. What's her podcast?
It's called Money with Katy.
Okay. Money with Katy. Another Katy.
IE.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. So I really enjoy her stuff. I mean, I think that when it comes, there's so much information out there now, like compared to when we were young.
Yeah.
I see a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to like, I don't really go on TikTok, but like even on Instagram, you're like, you didn't just tell somebody if they make $100,000, they can afford $1 million home, did you?
Oh,
so
gosh.
sometimes like I use my like, you know, Instagram account to be like, okay, don't listen to this.
Okay. That's good. What's your Instagram account?
It's Katy Song Money.
Okay. Katy Song Money.
Yeah.
At Katy Song. I mean, the little at sign.
Yeah.
Whatever.
At Katy
Or not
Song.
at, is it? Yeah. At or
At
yeah.
Katy Song Money.
Yeah. Katy Song Money. Okay. One financial habit you swear by.
Spending your money where it matters to you most.
Okay.
Like
that.
I love travel, and this may like shock a lot of people there, but I probably spend $40,000 to $50,000 a year on travel.
Okay.
And I don't really stay in like at the highest end places. I just go a lot of places. Like for me, seeing different cultures, getting a change of scenery, it just fuels me, it inspires me, and I'm willing to put my money there.
How was your France expedition?
It was like Disneyland for grownups. I mean, like we were there during COVID, and so there were no Americans. So we had like full run of the continent.
Wow.
It was incredible.
How fun. Okay. So one thing women should stop doing with their money right now.
Two things. One, hoarding cash because they're scared, you know, and not
That's
investing.
me. Sorry.
Yeah. So not investing it because you're like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to lose money.
Oh, no, I invest my money. Okay. So that's not me.
So hoarding cash. And the other thing is like just not paying attention. Like, you got to pay attention. Like it will hurt at first maybe, but like get some support. Call me. Like I'm happy to help you, like not feel embarrassed or ashamed or anything, but you just have to start paying attention.
Okay. And speaking of that, how do people get in touch with you, Katy Song?
Well, you can book a consultation at katysong.com. My email address is katy@katysong.com. And my Instagram is at Katy Song Money.
Okay. Well, this has been really wonderful. Thank you. I just love your energy as well. So Thanks for all this information. I'm sure my listeners are going to love it. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Talk with Tara. If you loved today's episode, please follow the show and share it with a friend. Stay tuned. There's so much more to talk about. See you next time.